lost good. Wow.
How'd you get?
You're learning to cook a new dish. You got a recipe. It says, sear the meat for 3 minutes and let it rest. So you sear it and you wait. That rest feels interminable. You want to cut into it. You want to check it. You want to do something. But resting is cooking. Proteins and various things are redistributing. Juices settle. You skip the rest, you're going to get kind of a shittier steak. It happens, right? It will leak everything everywhere. It won't cook right. Maybe not, but the rest is the deal. The pause. Pausing is not a downtime between actions. A pause here is an interval. It's a gap between two operations in which something essential happens. Processing, settling, integration. These things can't occur while operations themselves are running. So the interval between searing and serving, that's where the meat becomes the best. The interval between receiving information and responding to it, well, that's where thinking happens. Try music. A rest is a thing in a musical score. It's not silence accidentally left in. It's a structural element. It shapes phrases. The space between the last note of one phrase and the first note of the next creates tension, release, a breath, distance. A performer who eliminates rests, who plays every note fully legato with no space in between, it kind of would destroy the music. And the notes are all there, but the music isn't. Because the music lives in the relationship between sound and silence, not just in the sounds alone. The interval is where meaning forms. Think about grief. Someone you love dies. In the first hours, you will feel a strange flatness after a shock, maybe a blankness. Days will pass, the interval between the event and emotional processing of the event. That's where loss becomes real to you. You will wake up one morning, a week, month later, reach for the phone to call them. The loss will hit you in a way it just didn't on that first day or even the first week. Interval is necessary. Your psyche needed time to integrate, to digest what happened. Without it, without days between the event and the full emotional response, you would have shock followed by shock, followed by shock. There's no processing between this. The interval, it's a space where events become experiences, not just stimuli. Conversations work the same way. You say something, the other person pauses. In that pause, they're processing, they're weighing your words, forming a response, considering how to frame it. If they respond instantly, there's no gap at all. Feels different. Your response feels reactive. It's not considered. It feels like they weren't really listening. They were just waiting for their turn to talk. The interval between hearing and responding, it's where genuine engagement can happen. Without it, well, you get two monologues that sort of overlap. Think about the best conversations you've had. There are silences in it. They have pauses where someone looked at the ceiling or at you and thought for a moment. Those pauses are still the conversation. It's not a simple concept. It's not something that exists outside of the political space either. Paul Virilio has spent his entire career studying what happens when the interval is abolished. His term for this is dromology, from dromos, the Greek word for a race or a course. Dromology is the study of speed as political force. No, not things get faster accelerationism, neutral descriptive bullshit. It's about speed reorganizing power, because whoever controls the tempo of circulation controls what can be questioned, what can be said. Take a road that connects two towns. You will travel that road, right? See the landscape, farms, houses, rivers, distance between one place and the next. The landscape is visible because you're moving through it at a pace that's pretty good and it allows things to register. That road preserves the interval right? Between departure and arrival. The journey of traversal is real space. Space you traverse is legible to you. Now consider a highway that connects two cities. At highway speeds, towns you pass are exits. The farms are land. The distance, the interval, is something you must overcome, not experience. A highway doesn't make a trip faster. Not only. It annihilates the territory between 2 points, the space between cities, which the road revealed. The highway abolishes. You leave a city and arrive at the other. There's no middle or interval anymore. For Virilio, we're not talking about a metaphor at all. This is political principality in effect. A medieval army marching over land gave local populations time to respond, to flee, to negotiate, to resist, to surrender. A blitzkrieg eliminates that time. The speed of the advance is itself a weapon, not because tanks were more powerful than horses, of course they fucking were, but because the speed of their arrival abolished the interval in which defense could be organized or retreat could be handled. Population went from not yet threatened to occupied with no gap in between, no window for decision, for mobilization, for thought. Matters today. Speed didn't add force. Speed is the force. The same principle applies to all information. An interval between receiving some claim from someone and being asked to respond to it is the window in which you can evaluate the claim. A letter arrives, you read it. You know you're going to write back, you sleep on it. You draft your response 2 days later. That gap, reading to sleeping, sleeping to eating to drafting, this is all an interval in which your processing faculties operate. You metabolize what you received. You formed a position. The position is yours because you had time to construct it. But what if the letter demanded an immediate reply? What if the response is due before you've even finished reading? What if by the time you've processed that first sentence, more letters have arrived, each of them demanding immediate responses? The interval's gone. It's collapsed. You don't stop processing. Your brain won't shut off, but the processing can't help but be reactive, not reflective. You respond to stimuli. You don't form positions. The difference, it's not one of speed, really. It's one of kind. Think about the difference between a chess game that you play by mail and the speed of chess in a speed match. In correspondence chess, which exists still today, you receive your opponent's move and you have all the time you want. You will study the board for days, consider lines, consult references, sleep on it, come back with fresh eyes. The interval between receiving move and making your move is where the depth happens, right? In speed chess, gone. You have moments, the same game, the same rules, the same pieces. But the abolition of the interval changed the character of thinking entirely. You're not calculating, you're reacting. You don't develop positions, you fire off pattern-matched responses that you happen to know. Speed chess is not slower chess sped up. It is a fundamentally different cognitive activity, wearing the same formal structure over top. Talk about how trials work. There's a reason courts don't deliver instant verdicts. Juries deliberate. A judge will consider. There are recesses, adjournments, nights between sessions. These intervals aren't bureaucratic inefficiency. They are structural requirements for the kind of thinking that justice demands. A snap judgment, a deliberated judgment. These aren't the same judgment made at different speeds. They are different kinds of judgment entirely. The interval is what makes the difference between reaction and decision. Virilio wrote that the reduction of distances has become a strategic reality, bearing incalculable economic and political consequences. And he's not talking about geography. He's talking about the distance between you and the thing you think you know, the number of steps, the number of gaps, the amount of time your processing faculties have to operate before you're asked to act on what you have received. When that distance is long enough, you can orient, feel where you are in relation to any of the informations. When that distance contracts towards zero, orientation is structurally impossible, not difficult, fucking impossible. There's nothing to orient in. And this is what dromology really reveals. Speed doesn't just compress time. It transforms the quality of what happens within time itself. The interval isn't empty space between events. It's the space where events become intelligible, where you can ask, wait, what happened? Where did this come from? What can be done about it? Remove the interval. Those questions don't get worse answers. They stop being asked. You do not think slower. You stop thinking in a way that the word thinking actually means, as far as most people mean it. Deliberative, recursive, self-correcting processes that require some gap between input and output. That's gone. The interval is the site of whatever we might call fucking agency. The gap in which you shift from receiver to thinker. Stimulus to response, from perception to action. Every system that abolishes the interval, whether blitzkrieg or notification systems or a feed that refreshes before you've even finished processing the last refresh, removes the conditions under which you can form a position rather than merely react to one. When you feel like you can't think, you can't process, you can't get ahead of what's coming at you, the concept of the interval tells you what has been taken. Not intelligence, not intention, time. Your time, the time between receiving and responding. The rest that makes meat edible or music palatable. The pause that turns reactions into thought.
I could run through these halls forever if you like. Be trapped in this mall together if you like. I'd love to explore the corners if you like. The music plays so loud, guiding me where I go. In this vibrant crowd, do you feel it too though? Maybe